Happy ho-ho holidays, everybody! Cygnus Jason here with GameSide, and today we're talking about balls.
Oh, my balls! What happened to my balls?
I played the demo for Ball Pit a few months back, and I was stunned by both how unique the art style is and how addictive the gameplay is. I said, this has to be Devolver Digital, and sure enough, they were involved, but only on the publishing side. Ball Pit was developed by Kenny Sun and friends. Kenny is an indie developer based in Brooklyn, New York, a part of New York where I spent a considerable amount of time when I was younger. No, I don't know Kenny personally. Kenny's been working on projects solo since 2007 and started applying his efforts towards commercial games from 2015 onward. With a self-described passion for small, polished mobile games, I can see how his talents led to Ball Pit because, as far as I'm concerned, it is the pinnacle of small, polished games. You start the game with a short synopsis. The city of Balbalon is no more, thanks to random chance or a powerful deity with really good aim. The impact of the ball created what looks to be a bottomless pit where Balbalon once stood. The promises of treasure and power waiting for brave adventurers down in the pit spread throughout the surrounding lands, drawing in all types to take a shot at fighting through what waits down below. The game thrusts you into combat right off rip, so let's go over the basics. You start your first run as the Warrior. His special ball is the Bleed Ball, which makes enemies bleed on hit and makes them more susceptible to all other damage sources for the duration of the bleed. The Warrior also shoots Baby Balls, which look basic and do basic amounts of damage. Where does the Warrior and any other character launch their balls from? They spit them. Like, from their mouths.
Can I put my balls in your jaw?
What the f was that? Was it a ghost?
This makes me think there was so much freaky shit going on in Balbalon that a literal higher power had to put a stop to it. The Warrior is one character of many, and your choice of character determines what special ball you start with, how fast you fire baby balls, how many of them you fire or if you fire any at all, what attributes your character scales best with, etc. The majority of balls ricochet off of surfaces as much as they can before reaching the wall behind your character and then returning back to them.
Balls in your
Did I see
jaw.
that?
Special balls come in dozens of shapes and effects. Some detonate into an AoE on contact with an enemy, some gain additional lethality the more they bounce, some damage enemies over time, and some phase through enemies altogether. Special balls can only be fired once they return to you, so if one gets stuck pinging around the enemy's back line, you will have to wait for it to come back, which can ruin a run depending on the circumstances. As you punish enemies with your Balls of Fury, they will drop gems. Picking up gems adds to the gauge on the left side of the screen above your character health, allowing you to gain an upgrade once full. An upgrade means you gain a point in whatever attribute your character is proficient in, and you get to choose a new special ball or passive effect to add to your arsenal, both for the duration of the run. Passive effects can have a range of buffs: increased critical chance or critical damage depending on what side you hit an enemy on, increased damage from certain ball types, additional damaging effects resulting from statuses like frozen or poison, enemies explode on death, and many more. Your character can have 4 special balls and 4 passive effects equipped at once, and you can't delete any once you equip them, so choose carefully. Selecting the same special ball or passive effect will upgrade that ball or effect, increasing its effectiveness. The madness doesn't stop there, however. Every few dozen enemies you slay drops a fusion reactor, which you can use to do a few different things. First is Fission, which grants anywhere from 1 to 5 upgrades to a random selection of your equipped special balls and passive effects. Next we have Fusion, which combines 2 special balls into one ball with the effects of both special balls that went into it. Another benefit is that it frees up one of your special ball slots. Lastly, we have Evolution, which takes 2 special balls and fuses them, except the result is an entirely new ball with its own unique effect. This evolved ball will have to be upgraded again, but it can also be fused with other special balls for even more craziness. Fusions are as simple as 1+1, but you won't know what an evolution will bring until you first perform one with that specific combination of special balls. Your encyclopedia records all types of balls, passives, and enemies, and you can view your encyclopedia at any time during a run or back at base, just in case you forget what ball does what 2 balls evolve to make the ball you like, or what enemies should be prioritized in a run. You're only given a choice between 3 special balls or passive effects when you upgrade, and there are only a handful of upgrades you'll gain during a run. Your selection's usefulness is down to luck, but you are able to re-roll your selection with a little gold. Also worth noting, certain passive effects can be combined and evolved, creating a new effect just like ball evolution. And sometimes you can even fuse 2 evolutions into one ball with all the combined effects. Short of finding the right balls to use, you can skill your way out of some hairy situations. The speed at which everything moves can be changed at any time between 1, 2, and 3. Speed 1 is a little slow but gives you ample time to think. Speed 3 is straight up insanity and you run the risk of getting overwhelmed very quickly. And Speed 2 is a happy medium. If any enemies advance too far down the field, they will all start chanting at you in unison, prematurely celebrating your defeat. Needless to say, it's up to you to turn the tide. The most important tactic, to me, is finding the right launch angle to jam your balls in between groups of enemies, because that ensures maximum ricochet and damage output, which can make even baby balls useful. Don't linger in one spot for too long though. Enemies within melee range or any enemies who wander too close to the bottom of the screen will hit your character, and you can't take too many hits, so always burn the enemies closest to you before focusing further up. Some enemies can also fire projectiles at you. Some projectiles you can fire balls through to destroy, some projectiles make your balls ricochet on hit, and some projectiles just have to be dodged. The game tells you early on that you can auto-fire balls or fire them manually. I bring this up because firing balls slows your character's movement down, which makes it hard to evade incoming projectiles, although some passive effects or innate character abilities can get around this. As you unlock deeper layers of the pit, enemies get more varied. Some enemies are on stacked placements, meaning you have to damage them until they come down to the ground and finish them off. Some enemies increase the advancing speed of enemies near them, meaning they reach the bottom of the screen faster. Some enemies can change positions on the field, interrupting your perfect launch angle. And enemies can come in unique shapes, which can affect how your balls will ricochet or what sides you have to damage them on. As I said before, slain enemies can drop gems and fusion reactors, but they also have a chance to drop blueprints, which we'll get into shortly. The progress meter for your current run is on the right side of the screen, showing how close you are to a mini-boss or the layer's final boss. Every time you encounter a boss, the field widens, adding 2 more lanes. 2 more lanes where enemies can come at you, meaning you have to have some kind of strategy in mind by the time the first mini-boss appears. It's always the same final boss, mini-boss, and enemy types in each layer, so after a handful of failures, you should know exactly how to tackle a run from start to finish. Once you finish a layer, you're awarded with a gear used to upgrade the pit lift and access new layers deeper in the pit.
Allora vai nella prossima area! È ancora buio!
A sizable haul of gold, especially if your character's just completed this layer and difficulty for the first time, a blueprint or 2, and a trophy. A trophy is awarded upon your very first completion of a layer, and once the trophy is constructed at your base, it will apply a buff. A trophy's buff will get stronger with each clear of each difficulty for the specific layer that trophy is from. First time layer completions also unlock new special balls and passive effects for you to come across in your runs. With the layer complete, you take the pit lift back up to the surface and engage in a bit of farming?
Stay with me now.
With Balbalon now non-existent, it's up to you to rebuild the city, one building at a time. You can build out your base, dubbed New Balbalon, using 3 resources: wheat, logs, and stone. And gold, so 4 resources. Gold will buy you your first wheat field tile to place down where you can harvest wheat. Wheat will buy you a forest tile, which you can harvest for logs. Logs will get you a boulder tile, which you can use to harvest stone. Gold is used in the majority of building projects at base, so just make a habit of grabbing as much of it as you can. Once every 10 minutes in real time, or after you finish a run in-game, you can perform a harvest. You fire your characters as you would a ball and ricochet them off of or through your resource tiles to gain the resources those tiles are there to produce. The structures you can build at base are unlocked by finding the blueprints for those structures during runs. Every layer tells you how many blueprints are left to find by playing that layer, so it's really easy to get to them. Buildings come in 3 categories: economy, warfare, and housing. Economy focuses on structures that boost resource generation and cultivation. Warfare focuses on structures that increase points in certain attributes or how well all of your characters scale with certain attributes. And housing is for character houses, which unlocks new characters to use in runs, help with harvests, and man resource mining structures around your base. To build a building, you have to ricochet characters off of it during a harvest. Once you fill the progress meter of the structure, it's considered built. Most buildings should be upgraded for improved effects or additional functionality, which will require you to repeat the building process. To make the most of your harvests, you can freely arrange your base structures or resource tiles, allowing you to limit how far your character pathing strays from your intended targets. Expanding the buildable area costs an increasing amount of gold every time you do it, the same with the resource and gold costs of upgrading buildings, and there are a lot of buildings, the majority of which are helpful to you, so you'll be building and upgrading around the clock until your dirt patch resembles a fully fledged city. One last bit about characters. As I said, building a character's house allows you to use that character both at base and in actual gameplay. Characters have unique approaches to combat, like the Empty Nester, who shoots multiples of her special ball but no baby balls, or the Shade, whose balls shoot from the back of the field instead of the front and have a higher critical chance. A character's gimmick can make or break a run, especially when you reach the point where you're able to bring two characters with you on a run. Combining their gimmicks into either a weapon of mass destruction or a run that's doomed from the start comes down to how well you understand each character. Successful runs level up a character, which in turn can add buffs for their house, like increased XP for other characters whose houses are in close proximity to theirs, and increased harvest yield when that character passes through certain resources. A character's effectiveness in combat is determined by their attributes and scaling, and you can check the attributes of each character prior to entering a run. Each attribute improves a certain element of that character's performance, as they tend to do, and scaling further improves that improvement, as that usually does. Let's use the Itchy Finger as an example. He best scales with speed and intelligence, the two attributes responsible for ball and move speed and AoE power, respectively. Simply put, any bonuses to the speed or intelligence attributes and their scaling, like from the schoolhouse, university, wheelwright, or shoemaker buildings, will do a world of good for him as opposed to someone like the warrior. You do not have to worry about applying attribute points to characters since the game does it for you automatically. All you have to do is upgrade the attribute or scaling related buildings to make sure all of your characters are fighting fit. As you could probably surmise, attributes and scaling persist between runs, so you can get noticeably stronger characters as time goes on, which necessitates the additional difficulty options that each layer has. That about does it for the Ball Pit. A small game it is, but it's very polished and very fun. As you complete more and more runs, you will gain more characters to harvest more resources from more sources more efficiently to bring more destruction to your enemies and ultimately rebuild Balbalon. Also, the background music is really quite good. Trust me, once you get into a groove in this game, you will become addicted. Just ask my friend who has over 500 hours in this. This game also runs like a dream on Steam Deck, so I can for sure see myself sinking hours into this on the go. In response to Ball Pit selling a bajillion copies, there are a handful of free updates planned for next year, including new characters, buildings, and other stuff to keep the balls rolling. And now it's time for review bombing. Is what I would say if this game wasn't sitting at overwhelmingly positive on Steam, with all positive reviews flooding the front page. After spending a solid day with this game, it's very easy to see why it's getting nothing but love. But that's just my 2 cents. Ball Pit is available now on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch for the low price of $15. This is the last breakdown of 2025, so I'd like to take a second to thank everyone who's been tuning into the channel this year, and those who might start watching from here. To everyone who can see or hear this, happy holidays and a happy new year. This has been your Holly Jolly Ball Boy, Cygnus Jason, and I will see you all in 2026.
Chestnut, I'll be roasting the